He's tired.
Abelson says on the day Lisa died, she'd participated in the discussion about going to the hospital 25 miles away, and she'd even walked with help partway to the van.
I spend some time in court, as you can imagine, and so I'm very careful with my wording. And my wording would be this. From the time that Lisa McPherson died, backward 24 to 48 hours, she was unconscious.
Comatose, unconscious.
Yes.
She didn't sit around that day and decide whether or not she was going to go to the doctor.
Absolutely not.
After she was pronounced dead, Dr. David Mankoff, the emergency room physician who's also a member of the church, drew blood from Lisa and had it tested. The test results show a staph infection, which church officials say could explain Lisa's rapid deterioration and her death.
She did not die of an overwhelming staph infection.
Did a staph infection contribute or cause the blood clot?
No. No.
Dr. Wood says she can't explain the cuts and bruises on Lisa's body. They may have been from falls before she was comatose. Abelson maintains that the staph infection could have caused the bruises. The autopsy also refers to insect bites on Lisa's body.
Well, I can't explain the insect bites other than there were a lot of people probably coming in and out of the room, and there's a lot of mosquitoes in Florida. So that's how that happened.
No, they're not mosquito bites. They appear to me to be cockroach bites.
How could Lisa McPherson sit there and let cockroaches bite her while she's laying on a bed?
If she's comatose, it can happen and she doesn't know it and doesn't react to it.
I would like for them to get to the bottom of it and find out exactly what happened to Lisa.
Officials at Scientology say the ongoing investigation is the product of long-standing hostility toward the church in Clearwater, and that they'll be able to prove that there is an organized conspiracy against the church.
A young woman dies a mysterious death while in the care of the Church of Scientology. Now her family is suing.
The Church of Scientology killed Lisa McPherson. We allege that it was willful, wanton, malicious, and the result of culpable negligence.
The church says that isn't so. She died of natural causes. But when we tried to ask them more questions, this is what happened.
I want to ask a simple question.
Welcome to Inside Edition. I'm Madeline McFadden, in today for Deborah Norville. Back in January, we told you about the mysterious death of a young woman named Lisa McPherson. Lisa spent the last 17 days of her life at the headquarters of the Church of Scientology in Clearwater, Florida. In that broadcast, our Matt Mahar reported on some serious questions raised about her death, questions he's continued to investigate. He now has some critical new information about Lisa's death.
The wind's against us.
A handful of people have gathered for a candlelight procession in honor of Lisa McPherson. She died 15 months ago. For almost a year, the cause of her death was a mystery to her family. But in December, authorities said she died from a blood clot caused by bed rest and severe dehydration. It occurred while Lisa was in the care of fellow Scientologists at the church's spiritual headquarters in Clearwater, Florida.
I'm lighting a candle for Lisa's death.
Scientology, yes, yes.
Lisa's death.
You know this girl?
Lisa McPherson had been a devout member of the Church of Scientology. Forsaking friends and family back in Dallas, she lived and worked in Clearwater. She even donated more than $50,000 to the church in 1994. The people carrying candles didn't know Lisa. They're critics of Scientology. They claim the cause of her death is being covered up by the church.
Do you know Lisa? I do. I know Lisa now.
Hundreds of angry Scientologists didn't appreciate this vigil.
We know you didn't care about this girl. Who do you think you're kidding about that? Tell the truth. You got something against the church. Say it.
Didn't appreciate it to the point that they were blowing out the candles and harassing the demonstrators.
There must be a lot of people out there who don't like Scientology because 10 of them showed up.
You're making a sham of Lisa's death right now with what you're doing.
You're a joke. Lisa's death has become a symbol. Scientologists say they're being persecuted by police and the media, But critics and a lawyer who filed suit on behalf of her family say the church is responsible for Lisa's death.
The Church of Scientology killed Lisa McPherson. We allege that it was willful, wanton, malicious, and the result of culpable negligence.
Lisa's plight began in the fall of 1995. Before Thanksgiving of that year, she told a friend and family members in Dallas that she was coming home to stay. Lisa's friend, Kelly Davis.
She said she was coming to stay. She said she had to talk to me about a lot of things and that she didn't want to discuss it over the phone.
But on November 18th, Lisa had some type of mental breakdown after a minor car accident. She took off all her clothes and told paramedics that she needed help. She needed to talk to someone.
We don't know what happened before the car accident. We don't know that yet, but we will find out.
The paramedics took Lisa to a hospital emergency room where within minutes, Scientologists from the church's Fort Harrison hotel arrived and tried unsuccessfully to convince doctors not to give her a psychiatric exam. Hospital records indicate that Lisa had a fixed stare, was teary-eyed, and was talking in a monotone.
The doctors want to keep her for observation, but the Church of Scientology members show up and convince her to leave and go back to the headquarters in Clearwater.
Why did Lisa go there rather than home to her apartment?
She wanted to be around people from the church. She wanted peace and quiet, and she knew she would get that at the Fort Harrison Hotel.
Elliot Abelson is the general counsel for the Church of Scientology. We did this interview with him in December for our first report.
She rested, she slept a lot. Nothing unusual, really, until the end of her stay. She did get food, water. Obviously, people talked to her, but she got rest and relaxation.
But 17 days later, Lisa was taken from the Fort Harrison to another hospital. She had lost a tremendous amount of weight, had bruises on her face, legs, hands, and arms, and according to the medical examiner, had been bitten by cockroaches. This time, she was dead on arrival.
Her death is not a natural death.
Is her death being investigated by your office as a suspicious death?
Yes.
We interviewed Dr. Joan Wood, the medical examiner for Pinellas and Pasco counties, in January. She's since been told by prosecutors not to discuss the case.
This is the most severe case of dehydration I've ever seen.
Dr. Wood said tests performed during the autopsy indicate Lisa McPherson went at least 5 days without liquids.
5 days, you think she went without liquids?
I think 5 to 10 is reasonable. It may have been 17.
Wood speculated at the time that Lisa had either refused to eat and drink or had been denied food and water.
They have absolutely no basis to say that she didn't die of natural causes.
How do you know that?
Because I've read the autopsy report.
Abelson told us the medical examiner and police are conspiring against the church and ignoring a staph infection in Lisa's body that he says could have contributed to her death.
It may not have been the cause of death, but certainly would have exasperated what was happening to her.
She did not die of an overwhelming staph infection.
A test for the staph infection was ordered after Lisa died by this man, Dr. David Minkoff. He works in the emergency room at the Columbia Newport Ritchie Hospital and is a member of the Church of Scientology. On the last day of her life, the church says Lisa indicated she would only be comfortable seeing a doctor who was a Scientologist and a nice man. So even though there was an emergency room 2 minutes away from the Fort Harrison, she was driven 25 miles on a busy highway, passing at least 4 other emergency rooms to get to Dr. Minkoff.
And had they called him, do you know?
Yes.
And did they describe symptoms to him?
In a very general way.
And this doctor recommended that she come to that hospital?
Yes. He said, get her here immediately.
According to hospital records, the Scientologist who drove Lisa said she stopped breathing just as they approached the hospital.
Doesn't common sense dictate to you that they would have called an ambulance?
I can't apply my common sense to the situation because I wasn't there.
These were adults, weren't they?
Certainly they were adults.
Educated people?
And certainly the fastest way to get her to the doctor was
call an ambulance.
To put her in a van and drive her there.
You have a woman who's dehydrated. She's got severe diarrhea. She's had excessive weight loss, and she's going in and out of consciousness.
Oh, she's sleepy. You know, you're making more out of this going in and out of consciousness. She's tired.
The family's lawsuit accuses the church of